Today we're going to look at a progression that's going to go C major, A minor, E minor, A minor. And the reason I'm choosing this progression is because each of those chords has a finger in common. Part of the reason they have fingers in common is because all of those fingers would obviously have to do with common notes. So there are common notes between each of those chords. And the reason that there are common notes between each of those chords is because each of those chords can be derived from the same scale. In this case, the C major scale. We can get a C major chord from a C major scale, an A minor chord from a C major scale, and an E minor chord from a C major scale. All right, so let's take a look at that little chord progression of C to A minor to E minor to A minor, and look at the common fingers. First of all, C major to A minor has two common notes of E and C between the two chords. It's only the A note that's going to change, right? So C chord has C, E, and G, where an A minor chord has A, C, and E. But both share the notes C and E. So the only note that changes is the C moving to the A. So we have those two notes in common. And always observe the root notes that you're playing, the naming notes of the chords, C, A minor. Now we're going to move to the E minor, and the note that is in common between an E minor and an A minor is the E note. This note's not going to move between an A minor and an E minor chord. So E minor, A minor, C major, A minor, E minor, A minor, C major, A minor. So there's always a note in common. What this creates is stability in your left hand, obviously, but at the same time, it creates an understanding of how the chords are related to each other. So musically, it's important, and technically, meaning the physical part of moving on the instrument, is also important, right? Okay, let's turn that into a 4-measure long progression, which goes C major, A minor, and E minor, A minor. So think of it in 2 little sections: C major, A minor, E minor, A minor. Okay, here we go. And I'll just do all downbeats. 2, 3, 4. All right, now we can do the same thing with a root strum idea. And we'll keep the length of the progression the same. Always defining the root as if it were a separate part. So the chords of C major and A minor and E minor are closely related because they're all derived from the same scale, because chords come from scales. In the case of the C major chord, it comes from the 1st degree of a C major scale, which is C. In the case of the A minor chord, it's built from the 6th degree of the C major scale. And in the case of the E minor chord, it's built from the 3rd degree of the C major scale. And so each of those chords has as their foundation the same scale, and that's why they sort of why they do work together. So C major to A minor, E minor to A minor. Change those chords slowly, and always observe the common fingers. And remember, a common finger means a common note between the two chords. As well, at the same time, think of the bass line or the root notes as a separate part, because as we move along, we'll continue to develop that bass part or that root strum into more interesting and independent parts.